Hey gamers, welcome back to the channel. Got a quick question for you guys. Which one of these numbers has any significance to you? 142,213, 69,420, 168,780, 100,000, 26,567. Well, what if I told you three of these numbers indicate a max triumph score in one of three categories? One being legacy triumph score, which is unobtainable triumphs. That's the 142. One being active triumph score, which is all current obtainable triumphs. That's the 26,000. And one being total. So those two added together to get the 168,780. Now, before I start talking about any of this, I just want to make sure it's everyone, clear. I'm not trying to use this video to get attention or woe is me, max triumph score, look at me. I don't care. What I do think is annoying is how Bungie's lack of caring for triumph score has kind of tarnished the title of max triumph score. And that boils down to a couple things. One, you don't know what max triumph score is. I don't know what max triumph score is. That 168,780, if you knew that was max triumph score player, that was a max triumph score player, it's probably because you are a max triumph score player. And I think that's kind of a not big accomplishment, because most times when someone has seen my triumph score, again, I'm not trying to be like, oh my gosh, please give me attention. I usually get laughed at. I usually get, you're a loser, get a life, what are you doing? You really did all that crap? Good one. And I think there's some, change that needs to occur with triumphs, because it doesn't feel great to grind all that, and you think this is a cool accomplishment, and instead, you are viewed as, one of the neckbeards, or whatever you want to call it, like the absolute losers who just grind triumph score that doesn't matter. Like, it's a make-believe number, which I know some people have said. Some people think it's cool. I've, shared it with some. I think it's one of my favorite accomplishments, even though I hate it sometimes. But I think there's some benefit that could be done to triumph score. So, if you're curious, I wanted to go over some common questions I think people have about triumph score. Some of the large questions of how many people have max triumph score. What are the rarest triumphs in the game? And what do I believe are the hardest triumphs ever released in Destiny 2 history? So let's get into it. Like I said, I have max triumph score. I'm going to say it again because I don't care. I also have every seal and gilded every seal. So I've done everything. I think I know what I'm talking about. But again, this is still subjective to me and how my experience was when grinding triumphs. But the max triumph score community is quite small, as you would assume. Right now, if you go to a couple sites, right here I have Charlemagne pulled up, the triumph leaderboard. You can see max triumph score players. And if you count them up, there's me right there. It's currently sitting at 70 players. Now, there's probably a couple people here who haven't done the triumphs that came out Tuesday. So they have 2 days before the end of the final, or before the final shape, before that goes away. So they need to claim those, and I assume they're just waiting on that, or they're going to do that. So this 70 number, I'm going to guess, is going to be around 80, and that is going to be the new cap for max triumph score players. Because, if you don't know, max triumph score, that pool is constantly going down, because some triumphs are getting sunset and unobtainable, and if you do not get those, you have missed out and you have lost the max triumph score title. So it's almost like a chore. You have to make sure you keep it up. You gotta do all the triumphs within the year or within the season before they go away, and then you're gonna keep going into the next season and get the new ones. So, what are some of the rarest triumphs? What are the top of the line super accomplishment? Oh my goodness, these are the rarest triumphs that are so cool, and if you do these, you are awesome. They're catching fish. Do you know? So right here, we're looking at the rarest triumphs in the game. We have the top 12 right here. Some of these don't have triumph score attached, so I don't really count them. a majority of the top 10, top 20, top 30 is catching fish. Catching fish is the rarest triumph in the game. Why? Because Bungie thinks triumph score is not an accomplishment or not a hard feat that you overcame. It is, did you check a box? And that's what I wanted to talk about in this video. And why I think max triumph score is laughed at instead of, you know, wow, that's pretty cool. It's because we're catching fish to get max triumph score. So right here, you can see Cod Duello, Deafening Whisker, Gnawing Hungar. Those are the 3 rarest triumphs in the game that have score. The other ones over here, either medals or day ones, which don't have any score. I kind of ignore those. Some people do go for those. But what did you have to do for those? I think you needed to catch like 200 or like 50 of each fish, of like the legend, the rare, the exotic. And it was, I'll tell you this, pretty brutal. I don't know where I'm going. So for instance, the Cod Duello one, you need to catch 40 Cod Duellos, which was the legendary. And those are pretty rare because not only do you have to have bait, so if you're on bait, you gotta go get more bait. You have to catch fish, which are usually the, non-legendary or exotic versions, the green or whatever fish. And then if you do get a legendary, it could be one of many, and it had to be a Cod Duello. You had to do that 40 times, which seems like not that much until you start trying to grind it. I almost gave up. I was fishing so much, I was practically a full-time fisher. Now, what are the other triumphs outside of catching fish? We go back and we look at some of the other ones. They're not accomplishments. So, for instance, I don't know if any of you remember this one. This is in, I don't know what the season was, season of the pirates or whatever, I believe. The expedition activity. You need to defeat champions. How many? I think it was 250 or 200. And like, I think a max of 2 could spawn every seasonal activity. So if you do the math there, you have to play a lot and dedicate a lot of time, just like fishing, to getting this triumph. And that's kind of going back to why triumphs are made fun of. It's not an accomplishment. You just put in more time than everyone else. You don't have a life, as people usually say. I think that, again, really puts a tarnish on the title. Now you can see right here, the 0-hour flawless one, for instance, is pretty rare. Again, people probably still earning this. I do think this one's actually kind of, an accomplishment. I like those kind of triumphs. But if we keep going, catching fish, catching fish, catching fish, catching fish, some more flawless ones which are good, catching fish, and then we come down to another very rare, annoying triumph. Treasure-laden combatants, if you are unfamiliar with this, Season of the Deep, seasonal activity salvage, there was a chance a treasure-laden combatant would spawn, which is like a big, captain dude. And if you killed him, which you had to tag him, otherwise you didn't get progress, which I had someone kill him so quick that I missed out on it, and I didn't get progress, and I was very upset. If he spawned, which was very rare, you would get 1 progress. Towards 12, I believe. It was practically unobtainable unless you somehow got the best RNG and were in activity 24/7. And most people would just camp by the spot and make sure that they get the tag. So they're throwing the activity to make sure they get the triumph. Luckily, they did nerf this triumph. But the thing is, they never told anybody they were going to do that. So I'm over here grinding this triumph, hating my life, and then about halfway through the season, close to the end, they're like, oh, all right, we're actually going to kick that down to 3. So I'm over here almost at 12. I think I got to 12 finally. And they bumped it all the way down to 3. And I just felt like the Bungie just laughing in the Triumph Hunters' faces. I'm glad you guys nerfed it because, again, it shouldn't be a Triumph to begin with. But if it's that ridiculous, it's brutal. Let us know you're going to nerf it. I ain't going to grind it if you're going to change it to 3. So that kind of goes to why, Triumphs are really a disgrace. Nothing's really an accomplishment. There's some of these that are good. Most people just go for Triumphs and their seals that they want. And it kind of just goes on their day. And the max triumph score achievement is, shunned in the community and yada, 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 whatever. Woe is me. Now, for me, what do I think some of the hardest triumphs are? I think some of the best triumphs are the flawless ones, personally. I think some of the flawless ones are very cool, very fun. They add, like, okay, we got to go make sure we don't die this time and we get some reward. Or anything else related to doing an activity a certain way. Doing, challenges or triumphs or using a certain subclass, sure, as long as you don't cheese it, which a lot of people just do. Anything related to something that has some challenge behind it. Not something that has you just put in more time than everybody. Because that usually comes with you don't have a life. But whatever. If you think back to some other ones, I always go back to the Altar of Sorrow one. I think that was the first time where, like, what's going on? Like, 200 waves of Altar of Sorrow was the max triumph, or the requirement for the triumph. And I remember everyone laughed at that one, and I remember grinding that out and getting it finally. And then it's like, why am I doing this? And that's what I'm hoping Bungie will do, is that they will stop doing these bounties. These are bounties within the triumph selection screen. It's no different than having to grind an activity or grind a how many kills you need or how many whatever you need for this. And instead, it's put into the triumphs, and it's like, just choose a random number. How many fish does that sound? Just do 40 maybe. Yeah, sounds good. Oh, that was too much. Let's change it. Let's change it. We didn't really see that one coming. So I think in general, there's some things Bungie needs to do. One thing they need to do is they need to make sure that whatever max triumph score is, it's apparent. So if you hover over your triumphs, for instance, and you see max triumph score here, if you go to active, 26,567 out of 26,461. They don't even have the max active triumph score threshold right. That's wrong, obviously. And then the lifetime one, no one knows what the lifetime one is because there's no indicator. So what should they do, or what can they do? I think it'd be beneficial to, correct those numbers, of course. Then have some way to shine or show off that you have max triumph score, or have active max triumph score, because those are still obtainable for some people, which is a larger group who have active. And maybe have, like, whenever you have your stat tracker, like, your emblem has some effect on it, or some gilded glow. Some way to know, like, oh, that player has either active total or just active max triumph score or what have you. And it kind of just, again, goes to some of the things that they treat in the game. And I think one of the other examples I've used is, they introduce a lot of stuff in the game that just never is obtainable. So there's, like, an emblem over here that a lot of people refer to from Season of the Risen forever ago that they introduced and was supposed to be obtained, and it's still not obtainable. And I think for people who don't care, about score or collection or whatever. But for someone who's, tracking that stuff, it does get a little bit annoying. So that's kind of what I go over in the video. Max triumph score. It's about 70 people right now. I'm guessing there's going to be around 80. It's a very small community. I don't think we're asking for too much. I don't think I'm asking to, every time I join a lobby to get a bunch of messages, oh my goodness, you have max triumph score. But I feel like the number system is gotten to a point where no one knows. I don't even know what max triumph score is. And I care about it. Until I get it, I'm like, oh, that's what it is? Okay, cool. And then if I saw someone with it, I would know. So I think there's some benefit there from displaying max triumph score, displaying if you're an active max triumph score player, because I know there's some people out there, displaying that and being proud of it. And then changing triumphs where they're not, a chore, where they're not made fun of, where they're not, people don't grind them because it's just another bounty in their mind, which totally makes sense. And hopefully adding some more, prestige to some of the hard triumphs in the game, where they're not catching fish, because that is not an accomplishment. Unless you're a crazy person and catch 500,000 fish. Then that might be an accomplishment, but goodness gracious. Whoa. So that's going to be the video. If you like the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Appreciate you guys. If you haven't, make sure you go over to my Twitch, twitch.tv/DayStrixGaming, and check out the stream over there. I'll be streaming every day from the final shape to the day 1 raid and after. Also, new branding. I don't know if you noticed. Pretty cool. watch the end screen at the end of this. Pretty cool. So, appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully triumph score changes in the future, or has some, you know, level of prestige brought back to it. If you see a max triumph score player out there, let them know. Let them inflate their ego anymore. It definitely does help them. I've been lying this whole time. I just wanted to show off. No, I'm joking. Okay. All right, that's going to be it. Appreciate you guys. Catch your gamers in the next one. Later.